Welcome back to The Race. I'm Chris Stewart, and this week we're talking about criminal justice reform, and a big part of that is the war on drugs. The concept started in the 70s when then President Nixon called drug abuse public enemy number one. He passed new laws to increase punishments, hoping it would reduce drug use and sales. President Reagan added to the policies in the 80s. Critics say the war on drugs is discriminatory and targets minorities, and that it inflated the incarceration rate, especially among people of color. Today, fewer Americans support the war on drugs. Most states passed legislation to ease drug laws in the last decade, lowering mandatory minimum sentences and reducing penalties. Certain low-level crimes can negatively impact a person their entire life. Elizabeth Ruiz has how more states are working to change that.
Darius Ballinger is the founder of Chasing 23.
It's essentially a one-year program that provides wraparound services to young men that are at risk of being incarcerated, of prone to violence, or maybe at risk in terms of academics.
He was inspired to start the nonprofit after losing a close friend, and he wanted to make a difference in his community. But he says, in all honesty, becoming an entrepreneur seemed like the only option to move on from his past that stained his identity when applying for jobs, housing, or higher education.
I have a 2009 intent to deliver possession charge with cannabis.
Darius had moved on from his conviction, thinking it would always be a part of him. But now that Illinois has legalized recreational marijuana, Darius has an opportunity to get his record expunged, or in other words, forgiven and forgotten.
Once you legalize adult use cannabis, we really need to work on expunging the records, pardoning people, getting rid of the arrest records of people who historically have been discriminated against.
Upon legalizing marijuana in Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker pardoned more than 11,000 low-level cannabis-related convictions. It was an action applauded by the American Civil Liberties Union as a step toward ending racial discrimination.
People of color have been arrested, convicted, and sentenced more and more harshly than white people throughout the so-called war on drugs.
Those were the primary reasons we legalized. It was for these very serious reasons, right? It was criminal justice reform and safety and trying to reverse the damage.
In an attempt to reverse that damage, 25% of Illinois cannabis tax revenue will go toward the Restore, Reinvest, and Renew program. It will fund strategies that focus on violence prevention and health services in neighborhoods that need them.
We need to remove the stigma of criminalization and stop jailing people and applying punishment that doesn't really work.
There is an exception to expungement for people who have a violent crime on their record. However,
most people who have a cannabis conviction don't have that on their record.
Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox says this new change will free up time and space to intake those who have committed violent crimes. But she also thinks the state will see less gun and gang violence if people are given the opportunity to move on from their past.
People who are able to actively participate in our communities by working, by having stable housing, by being able to get an education, tend to not be involved in criminal activity.
Though he did it without the help of a clean record, Darius is a prime example of somebody who has found new opportunity. But he knows his situation is not common.
Outside of me, you're not gonna find too many people that went to jail, went to prison, come back, get an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, go fellowships. Like I'm the exception to a problem that's very normal.
For The Race, I'm Elizabeth Ruiz reporting.
How computer coding is helping former inmates stay out of jail. Next.